Very good. Thanks, Andy. So for those who don't know me, I'm Tracy Dean. I'm somewhat new to IMS, certainly newer than many of you, I'm sure. I've been working on IMS tools for about 3 years, and that's when I learned to spell IMS. So please ask questions. If I've not had something clear, certainly ask them in the chat. I will take questions as we go, and of course there should be time at the end as well for any lingering questions. So let's get started in the presentation. What I wanted to do today was just give you a bit of an update on what's been happening in the IBM IMS tools portfolio in the last couple of years since we last met. So first of all, we'll talk about IMS 15.1 and 15.2. As you're upgrading your IMS release, what do you need to do about your tools? And then I'll spend most of the time talking about the new versions and releases of the IMS tools that we've had in the last 2 years. And then I'll spend a little bit of time talking about continuous delivery and functions that we've been shipping as part of the continuous delivery process through new function PTFs. So sometimes we do new versions, sometimes we do new releases, and sometimes we just do new function PTFs. So I'll cover all 3 of those. And then I'll give you some reference information to make sure that you're staying current, and also links on how you can get the latest information on these new function PTFs as well. I'll certainly cover some today, but I will certainly not be covering all of them. So first of all, IMS tools, what I call the big picture. The areas that we are focused on is database management. So we have the 3 different solution packs for that, depending on whether you're using FastPath databases or if you're doing online or offline reorgs of your full function databases, including HAL-DBs. And then, of course, recovery of your IMS databases, performance, and transaction management for those that are using the TM component of IMS. So that's kind of our big picture of where we're focusing. Under the covers, there's many, many pieces. I'm not going to go into all of these today, but I just wanted you to be aware that this is the whole portfolio when we talk about IBM's IMS tools and the various areas that we cover. So let's jump into the meat of the presentation here. First of all, what if you're moving to 15.1 or 15? I sure hope you're already there. I'm sure Kevin would be very happy if you're there as well. So if you're installing 15.1 or 15.2, you need to make sure that your IMS tools that you're using have any PTFs applied to support that new environment. So when we look at compatibility, I have a link here. Sorry that the URL did not show up very well in the screen here. But that's the URL. It's live, so when you look at the PDF, you'll be able to click on that and find the full list of IBM IMS tools, and for each one, any PTFs that are needed for 15.1 or 15.2. So there's 2 different tabs. Some of you are only on 15.1, and some of you are moving right ahead with 15.2. So different tabs for the different releases. The next area, of course, is starting to look at IMS managed ACBs. So if you're moving in that direction, you're starting to look at the IMS catalog and moving to IMS managed ACBs. We also have updates to the IMS tools for those as well. So it's another one of these support links. We have lots of tech notes out there. And this is one of those for being able to know what PTFs you'll need on your tools to support managed ACBs. And then finally, Betty already talked a little bit about encryption and OSAM databases. And so if you're thinking about using OSAM databases or having them converted to linear data sets, you might be doing that to support dataset encryption, or you might even just be doing it to take advantage of IBM Media Manager and allowing you to get some zip offload in your IBM IMS tools. So if you're looking at moving to linear data sets for your OSAM databases, we have a URL as well for IMS tool support for encryption. And again, on that page, there's information for VSAM, and then there's a separate column for OSAM as well. So places you can go, these are kept up to date on a regular basis. Some of them might say it's not available yet, so come back and watch for it. You can also, if you're subscribed to IBM's My Notifications, you can get notifications immediately when these pages are updated. So that's just the high-level view of where you can go to get information on those IMS initiatives. Now let's talk about what we're actually doing in tools specifically to help you improve your environment. So I'm going to work backwards in time. I'll talk about our most recent release first, and then we'll move back over the last couple of years. So first we have a new release of IMS Performance Analyzer, version 4.5. And corresponding to that, we have a new release of the Performance Solution Pack, which has been updated to include this new release of Performance Analyzer. So what is Performance Analyzer 4.5? The major new function in this new release is some dramatic improvements to form-based reporting. So I'll talk about form-based reporting again on a couple of slides if you are not familiar with it yet, but that's really the major new function. This release became available in October of last year, and again, the corresponding release of Performance Solution Pack was updated on the exact same date. So whether you get the product as a standalone or you get it as part of your solution pack, you should be able to access this new function. Within 4.5, there were also some other updates in response to RFEs. You'll find that throughout our portfolio, we really do work with you as you open RFEs and try to address your needs. And certainly Performance Analyzer did that in this new release. We also did a new release because we also did some code cleanup. So for those of you familiar with Performance Analyzer, it's very dependent on log record formats, for example. You can imagine there's some old code paths in there for very old versions of IMS. So we did a little bit of code cleanup while we had the opportunity with this new release and remove some of those old code paths. So now let's talk about form-based reporting. I hope some of you are already using this, but if you're not, the one thing I will ask you to do is, if you're a Performance Analyzer customer, is to go try it. The traditional fixed reports I know have worked for many customers for many years, but form-based reporting is the future. We will not be doing a lot of updating to those fixed reports. We're going to really be asking you to move toward form-based reporting. And so what is that? It's really a way for you to build your own report, to allow you to include whatever fields or columns you want, to filter on those columns, to summarize that data either chronologically or based on a field you specify, and to create output in just normal format that you might look at in SDSF, or exporting it to DB2 tables, or exporting it to CSV files for you to import into other platforms. So this is a way really for you to create your own reports that are exactly what you need. So if you think about maybe having a service level agreement, what are those measurements? I want to be able to create reports that specifically reflect those service level agreement measurements. And that's really what form-based reporting allows you to do, without having to include a lot of extra data that maybe you're not interested in, really getting it down to just what you need. So it's a very, very flexible way to build your reports in Performance Analyzer. So some of the enhancements we made, if you're already using form-based reporting, you'll notice some new things in Performance Analyzer 4.5. First of all, you're able to generate the JCL directly from the report form or from the list. And then secondly, there's a lot of new search capability. So the ability to search for specific fields based on keywords or descriptive text, being able to do filtering, to filter the report to just contain the subset of transactions maybe that meet a set of criteria. And we'll see some examples of that in a couple of the screenshots that I have. So being able to search and filter is really important in terms of being able to give you the flexibility to generate exactly the report that you need. Now, of course, like most things, no one wants to start with a blank screen when you're doing something like this, right? Most of us like to start, show me a sample, and then I can modify it. It's a lot easier for me to see how someone else did it and modify it than to sort of start with a blank screen. We have many, many samples in Performance Analyzer, and many, many more were added in 4.5. So you really should not fear using form-based reporting. There's a way to get started with a sample, play with it, see how it runs out of the box, and then just start modifying that sample. So very easy for you to get started, but also to customize and get you what you need. So let me look. I'm afraid the platform here is not exactly going to show these screenshots the way they were intended. So let me talk through some of the outlines here. The PDF should be clearer. So this is a screenshot of Performance Analyzer 4.4. So this is the previous release and the primary option menu. And the way Performance Analyzer has been developed over time is as we added new functions, we just sort of kept adding to this list, right? So form-based reporting or report forms ended up at the bottom, item number 10. Because we just kept adding to this list, we decided version 4.5 was the time to sort of redo this menu design. And so what we're going to do is move to a simpler menu where the primary menu is just the major functions that you need, and then there are new sub-menus underneath. So this is the new main menu for Performance Analyzer 4.5. Do not worry, all of the functions that were on that previous menu are still available. They're just available as sub-menus under some of these, and we'll see that. So for example, the systems is now a primary option menu, and under that is the sub-menu for your system definitions and your groups, for example. And of course, report forms is the new enhanced function that we have in 4.5. We'll talk about that. But item 4, controls, now takes you to a sub-menu that does lots of other things that used to be on that main menu. So again, all the functions are still there. We're just trying to simplify the menu design because many of these things you'll only do once or a few times. It's really the report forms that we want you to focus on and have easier access to. Okay, so in the submenu on Performance Analyzer under Controls, we have the new filter option. So this is allowing you to create form-based report filters, and we'll talk about that in the next couple of slides. So here's an example. Here's a list of report forms, and again, the formatting didn't turn out quite right here in the Adobe platform. The PDF should still look good for you. And so this is the list of report forms, and what you're going to notice here is there's a new field search. And so this allows you to search all of the forms for a specific field. And so you can search on any of the field names that are available in IMS Performance Analyzer. So this is an easy way to find any of the report forms that contain this field or any of the field that's available in one of your existing reports. And then there's also a column filter. So now again, this is a filter where I can narrow down this maybe long list of reports, including this many samples that IBM ships. I can narrow that down based on the name of the report, the type of report, the description of the report, etc. So lots of new capability to make it easier for you to find the reports that you're looking for or the report forms that you're looking for. And this is also where you'll notice you can generate the JCL right from this list. So you don't need to go back into a separate step to do that. I can generate the JCL right here. So now if I'm actually looking at a specific report form, in this particular case, I can assign it to a category. In this case, I've assigned it to IMS. I could also assign it to Connect Extensions, etc. I can specify the transaction mix. In this case, I've specified a 1, and so you can specify a value of 1 to 6. And then I can specify a filter that I want to add. And so, for example, maybe I only want to include the transactions that have a CPU time that's greater than 0.05 seconds, right? So now instead of getting all of the transactions, I just narrow it down to the transactions that are maybe outside of my service level agreement, right? Things that are not meeting my service level agreement. And then I can also look at precision levels as well, so I can specify the precision value for different fields as well. So lots of new options when I'm actually creating a report. And then again, I can generate the JCL right from the report. So I can generate it from the list of reports, or I can generate it from the report itself. Now let's look at this filter option. How do I specify a filter? On the previous screen, for example, I mentioned being able to filter and get just the transactions that are taking more than 0.05 seconds. So in this case, this is my report filter panel. And I can show, for example, a set of transactions. I can limit it to a set of transactions that occurred within a specific period of time. So maybe there's a window of time where I'm having an issue and I want to generate a report that has only the transactions during that period of time. And I can generate only the transactions where the region type is IMS DB control, for example. And I want to generate only or include only the transactions that have this CPU time greater than 0.05 seconds. So again, lots of options here. These are just an example, right? These are just examples. There's many, many fields and operators you can use to get the report to show exactly what you're looking for. So again, think about your service level agreements, right? What reports do I need to generate to make sure that I'm meeting my service level agreements? So that's just a quick overview of IMS Performance Analyzer. I'm going to give you a link at the end of the presentation where you can learn more about IMS Performance Analyzer. We have videos out on IBM Media Center, and we also did a WebEx last November, I believe, at the monthly IMS WebExes that Rick Engel hosts, and we showed a live demo of Performance Analyzer there as well. So lots more information available. Live demos and recordings are available as well to learn more about PA 4.5. But again, the main focus here is improving form-based reporting. If you're not using form-based reporting, I'm going to continue to encourage you to do that. It will be much more the way we're moving in the future. Of course, if you're an existing customer of Performance Analyzer or Performance Solution Pack, you should be able to go to ShopZ today and download this and get it installed and start running. Okay, just a reminder, add your questions to the chat if you have them as we go, and of course I'll answer them as we go or at the end as well. So now let's move back a little further in time, and we're going to talk about IMS FastPath Solution Pack version 2.1. So this is a product that came out in March of last year, March of 2020, so just a little over a year ago. This is a new version of FastPath Solution Pack. You should still have access to it if you're current on your SNS. You should be able to go to ShopZ and download it. The major change in FastPath Solution Pack version 2.1 is a brand new utility we call Online Structure Change Utility. What that allows you to do is to restructure your DEDBs while they remain online, while they're being read, and while they're being updated. So it's going to allow you to concurrently restructure all the areas of a DEDB. It will allocate the data sets for you dynamically. It's basically a single job step to do this. So what this means is I can now make these structural changes to my DEDBs while significantly reducing downtime, right? Increasing uptime. Just like an online reorg of anything, there is going to be a short takeover period, so there is a pause where the DEDB is unavailable. I use the word outage on here. That's probably too dramatic. It can be a pause. It depends on the nature of your change and the size of the DEDB, etc. That takeover can be scheduled. So what we see customers doing is we might start making the change before your outage window, and then you could schedule the takeover if you wanted to do it during an outage window or during a less peak time. So again, you can schedule that takeover to occur later after you've made the structure change. It does, of course, FastPath Solution Pack is the only release that will support IMS managed ACBs. So you do need to move forward to 2.1 for all of the managed ACB support. So what types of changes can I make during an online structure change? I'm not going to go through all of these in detail, but here are the list of changes that we support that you can make while the database is online. So we can change the number of database areas, we can move data between areas, you can change the randomizing module with or without a name change, you can change the compression routines, again with a name change. You can change or add segments to the bottom of the hierarchy. You can change your existing segment hierarchical structure, and you can increase the maximum or minimum length of a segment. So several things that you might need to do, you can now do while the database remains online. So you might look at this and think, but we already have something called DEDB alter. So what does online structure change give me beyond what DEDB alter does today? And so that's what this chart is designed to help you understand. So DEDB alter allows you to add areas, so does online structure change. DEDB alter allows me to replace the two-stage randomizer, so does online structure change. But one thing you'll note here is DEDB alter requires the new randomizer to have a different name. With online structure change, we do not have that restriction. So you're allowed to keep the same name of the randomizer when you're making the change. Adding a compression routine, note again the note here, so when you're using DEDB alter, when you're adding a compression routine, the data is not immediately compressed. With online structure change, it is. So lots of additional things here we can do with online structure change that you have not been able to do today with DEDB alter. And again, for those of you that are already customers of FastPass Solution Pack, this is already available to you in version 2.1. As an existing customer, you can go download this and start using this function. So again, FastPass Solution Pack version 2.1 came out just over a year ago in March of 2020. It is the only one that will support IMS managed ACBs, and of course the major functional enhancement is to help you improve your availability of your DEDBs with online structure change. And again, we do have that short takeover, but it can be scheduled. Okay, we're going to continue to work back in time, and now we're going to talk about IMS Problem Investigator version 2.5. And of course, corresponding to that, we updated the Performance Solution Pack to include this new release of Problem Investigator. So Problem Investigator 2.5 became available in October of 2019, and the corresponding release of Performance Solution Pack became available then as well. Of course, now the Performance Solution Pack has been updated to 2.3 to include the new release of IMS PA. So really, if what you want to get is Performance Solution Pack 2.3, it will give you the latest release of PI and the latest release of PA. So Problem Investigator, we had a couple of enhancements that we added. A few are from RFEs from customers, of course, that we always do in any new release. The first one is the scrub utility. We enhanced that to support additional log record types, including the IMS Connect Extensions journal. If you're not familiar with the scrub utility, that's what allows you to scrub data before you might send it to maybe other people in your organization or back to IBM. So we're scrubbing data out of the IMS log to remove personal information, sensitive information. Very similar to what Betty talked about earlier with the data privacy protection in dumps, for example. The scrub utility in PI allows you to do that for your IMS log. So we have customers, of course, that need to do that when they send it to IBM or to any other vendor for problem determination. But we also have customers who use this even internally, right? I want to send maybe some log data to an application developer, and they're going to use PI to look at it, but I want to remove some of the customer-sensitive information. I'm able to do that with the scrub utility. We also have enhanced CSV output for PI and some additional support for IMS Connect Extension CA20 records, and then new filtering options as well. All of these four things that I just mentioned are really enhancements that we might have typically made as a new function PTF through continuous delivery. Typically, we would not have done a new release for these four enhancements, but what we did was we took the opportunity to do a new release and again do this code cleanup that I mentioned with PA as well. So again, Problem Investigator has lots of code paths for very old versions of IMS, and so we took this opportunity to clean those up, which of course requires lots of recompiling and therefore a new release. So when you see the new release of PI, you will not see a dramatic change in the user interface like you do with PA, for example, but you will get these additional enhancements, and you'll get some cleaner code, if you will. So again, that became available in October of 2019. Okay, so those are the three major things that we've done in the last 18 months to 2 years. So the new release of Performance Analyzer, the new version of FastPath Solution Pack, and the new release of Problem Investigator. So now let's talk about the rest of the portfolio areas and what we've been delivering in new function that we've done through the continuous delivery process. So first of all, I'm going to touch in this presentation on just a few of the new functions that we've delivered. To get the full list, I have the URL here. What this URL will take you to is a website with a spreadsheet in XLS format or a CSV format, and it's a list of every new function PTF we have shipped in the IMS Tools portfolio since I think 2016. Now, of course, because it's in CSV or spreadsheet format, you can sort and filter on any of the columns that are available. So you can filter on maybe just the products that you already have. You can sort on the date to maybe only pick up the most recent ones because you know your current level of code is very recent. So this is, again, something that you can subscribe to, get notified. It's usually updated around the 17th to the 20th of every month. So this is updated monthly, and you can go pull the latest information and find out what we've been delivering. So the few things I do want to talk about, I'll touch first on IMS Queue Control Facility. So for those that are using Queue Control Facility, you might have noticed there's been an issue with CM0T pipes that can get left orphaned if the messages are deleted from the queue in a shared queue environment. I know some of you are either using or looking at using shared queue environments, and so you might run into this issue. And so we do have a new function PTF that allows you to delete those CM0T pipes for those deleted messages with the new function that we have here. You'll notice that in the blue box is the QCF APAR number, but it prereqs an IMS version 15 APAR as well. So you will need the PTFs for both to use this new function. In terms of our database management and recovery tools, several things that have been going on here, and you'll see many of them follow a theme. In Tools Base version 1.6. So IMS Tools Base version 1.6 is our free, no-charge product that's sort of a baseline for many of our solution packs and other tools. And so there's this Tools Base has some functions that are useful to you out of the box. Many of the functions are not useful unless you also have the other IBM IMS tools. But in this case, what we've given you is a new batch utility to register a group of IMS databases to our autonomics directory monitor list. So instead of having to register one at a time, we now have a batch facility that allows you to do that with a group of databases. The IMS admin tool, we've made some performance improvements around DBD and PSB member list display for those customers that have a very large environment. We've now also given you the ability to register databases to DBRC. We've noticed more and more customers that we're running across that have fallen behind a little bit, if you will, on their IMS management practices and are not using DBRC. And so now they're wanting to move to DBRC and register those databases, so we've given you a utility to do that. We've also given you the ability, as customers move to the IMS catalog, is to decode your DVD or PSB source from the IMS catalog. And so I'll have a couple of screenshots showing that. And then in our recovery solution pack, we have something called Database Recovery Facility. We've made some performance improvements there as well to reduce elapsed time and MSU consumption for the health checker. So again, these are all of the APAR numbers. You'll just need to go get the PTF on each of these products. And then I also wanted to highlight here, just because of the timing of this particular CCDUG, we are actually in beta right now with some customers. If you're interested in joining, reach out to me. But we have beta code available for the IMS Online Reorg Facility to support external logical relationships. So Online Reorg Facility for a long time has supported internal logical relationships. We're now adding support for external logicals as well. And so we're in beta now with some customers. If you're interested in joining that beta, let me know. Otherwise, just watch that new function continuous delivery website, and you'll see a PTF become available soon. Okay, so let's go back to the item I referenced on IMS Admin Tool about decoding DBDs and PSBs. I've included here just a few screenshots of the flow of how you might do this. So in this case, if I want to generate the DBD or PSB statement source code from the catalog database, I can go to the Object Explorer view in the IMS Admin Tool, and I select option 9, IMS Catalog Database. And then I can look at the DBD list or PSB list, and I can use the line command S to generate the DBD or the PSB statements for a particular DBD or PSB name. Now you'll notice on this screen, for example, we've applied a filter, so I only have a few excuse me, DBDs that are listed. So now once I look at that, look at the source, I'm actually going to be presented with a list of the instances of that DBD or PSB that's found in the IMS catalog. Because of course with the catalog I may have multiple instances of history as I've made changes to these things. So it's going to show you all of the instances and allow you to choose which one you want to decode. And of course over on the right you'll see we have the matching library. Indicate, for example, if you're using IMS managed ACBs, whether it's the IMS active directory or the staging directory. If you're not using IMS managed ACBs, it will tell you whether it's the active ACB lib, the inactive ACB lib, or the staging ACB lib. And then when I actually choose which instance I want to decode, then it will show me the source code from that DBD or PSB, and it actually stores it in a data set. So I can actually use that in the future and edit and use it in IMS resource change. Okay, continuing to move on here, we have IMS Program Restart Facility. For those that aren't familiar with this product, one of the features in the existing IMS Program Restart Facility was the ability to reduce checkpoint processing. So for customers that might have applications that were written years or decades ago, perhaps they're doing too much checkpointing, and you can reduce your MSU or CPU consumption by reducing those checkpoints to something that's more practical today. So that's what IMS Program Restart Facility, one of its current features. What we've done with this new APAR and PTF is we've added the ability to actually insert checkpoints. So previously we were able to reduce the number of checkpoints or eliminate some checkpoints. Now what we're allowing you to do is to actually issue checkpoints without changing your application. So there's a couple of different ways to do this. You define for us the triggers, if you will, of when you want to insert checkpoints. So we will be able to insert checkpoints when you're doing different calls like get unique, get hold unique, get next, get hold next, etc. And then, of course, if we have 1 to 5 DLI status codes returned from a DLI call. So those are all the places where we can insert checkpoints, and then you define the minimum time interval between each of those where you want us to insert a checkpoint based on one of those triggers. So this is the ability for customers who have older code that didn't do checkpointing, and you now want to insert checkpointing. And related to this, we have a new checkpoint report as one of our samples in IMS Performance Analyzer 4.5. So this is an easy way for you to use PA 4.5 to easily find your BMPs that are doing either more or less checkpoints than you want. So you can specify the range that you want the checkpoints to be in. Anything that's outside that range you will see in the PA report, and then you can use Program Restart Facility to either reduce checkpoints or add checkpoints for each of those BMPs. Okay, next let's talk about HAL-DBs. We're seeing more and more customers using HAL-DBs because their databases are growing. And of course, for some customers, their first HAL-DB might be the IMS catalog. So customers are getting introduced to HAL-DBs with the IMS catalog. So we did make some enhancements to cloning tools when it comes to the cloning tool when it comes to HAL-DBs, where we can redefine the target HAL-DB to match the source. And then there are also several of our tools that have been updated to support more than 999 million segments. And so all of the products already supported that number of segments under the covers. The only change that we actually made to these products was the display. So rest assured, if you do not have these PTFs and you're getting to a large number of segments, no concern. It's just the display that may not look right. So each of these APARs and PTFs will fix the display, if you will, or print the correct number of segments. But all of the support underneath has already been there, has always been there. Now, I talked a lot earlier about Performance Analyzer 4.5. We've actually shipped new functions since that October 2020 GA. So as I said, continuous delivery really does mean continuous for us. We have some new options to extract things into CSV format. And especially this last one I know has been really popular with customers, option to extract the CSV for select sub-reports from the IRUR statistics report. If you don't know Mike Gonzalez, you might go listen to the WebEx that we just did a couple of weeks ago, where Mike talked about his extensive use of how PA allows you to create these CSV files and how he's importing those into other platforms or using Python to evaluate them and creating some really good information to help customers with their health checks. So go listen to that WebEx as well if you haven't heard it. Again, that's the monthly WebEx that Rick Engel hosts and advertise on the IMS listserv. Now, of course, I will always talk about conditional reorganization of IMS databases, no matter what I'm talking about. And so today I'm going to just mention that if you're not doing conditional reorg of IMS databases, you need to be thinking about it. So this is the ability for the tools to gather the data. You set the selection criteria to decide when a reorg needs to be done, and then we decide when to run the reorg based on that. So what this means is you move away from this traditional method where we schedule our reorgs on a regular basis. We reorg this database once a month, we reorg this database once a quarter, we reorg this database once every 6 months or something like that. And so in this case, what we're using conditional reorg for is the ability for you to say, let's only reorganize the database when it will add value. Let's spend our precious system resources only reorging databases when they will add value. And so we're using conditional reorg to do that. So I really encourage you to continue to look at conditional reorg, and what you're going to see in our tools portfolio is we will continue to make improvements in this area based on your requirements. So for example, we've added some new enhancements in this APAR to evaluate the indexes when determining if a reorg is needed, to always create an unload file even if the reorg is not done, or to always create an image copy even if the reorg is not done. So many people use that reorg process to do things like always create the image copy for some other purpose, or always create an unload file for some other purpose. And maybe the database will not benefit dramatically from a reorg, but create those other things. And so we have the ability to still use your reorg cycle for that, even if you don't actually do a reorg of the database. Okay. Wrapping up here, I want to remind you of how to stay current, and to also remind you of some upcoming end of support dates. So these are important things to be keeping up with, to be noticing when IBM is making these announcements. So our most recent end of support announcement, you can see at the bottom, was in February of this year, so just a couple of months ago. You'll see the next one in August of this year. These are the standard IBM Z software end of support announcements, and our IMS tools participate in those. And so in this case, I want to point out to you that we have some upcoming end of support dates, or some recent end of support dates. So if you're on IMS Connect extensions, you should be on version 3.1 because version 2.4 went out of support last year. If you're on Performance Solution Pack, you should be on version 2 in some form. Version 1 went out of support last year. HP SysGen Tools 2.3 went out of support last year. You should be on 2.4. And Database Solution Pack 2.1 went out of support last year, and you should be on 2.2. And then coming up this year, you'll notice that some of the things I talked about today, the new releases I talked about today, that the previous release is going end of support later this year or early next year. So PI 2.4 will go out of support this year. Performance Solution Pack 2.1 will go out of support this year. FastPass Solution Pack version 1 will go out of support this year. All of those have their new version replacements. And then Performance Analyzer and the Performance Solution Pack for 4.4 and 2.2, those will go out of support next year. So just make sure you're keeping up with this. I've given you a link at the bottom of the page to one of my favorite IBM websites, because you can find any product, when it was announced, what the withdrawal from marketing date was, what the end of support date was, links to the announcements, etc. So you can use that to certainly look and make sure that all of the releases that you're using are currently in support, or if they have upcoming end of support dates. Okay, I also wanted to use this opportunity. I know we have some FastPath customers here in Canada, that we have our IMS FastPath basic tools being stabilized. So we announced this as part of our FastPath Solution Pack version 2 announcement back in March of 2020. So those FastPath basic tools are still supported, but we're giving you a heads up that they are being stabilized. What that means is they're not being enhanced to support new initiatives in IMS, for example. And so we really want you to be moving to the FastPath Advanced tool or the online tools. So again, that was officially announced in March of last year. So I encourage you, if you're using the FastPath basic tools, to start evaluating and making a plan now for moving to either the advanced or online tools. And then finally, I'll wrap up and say our focus in IBM IMS tools is to help you continue to reduce system resource utilization, improve recovery, availability, and productivity, and of course, improve system performance. And we're doing that, as you saw here, with some new versions and releases, but we're also doing many, many things in the continuous delivery process. So you're seeing lots of new function PTFs coming out. I'll wrap up here on the resources page. I hope you'll go to some of these links. If you're not already signed up for some of these newsletters, please do that. If you've been looking for IMS or IMS tools videos on YouTube, things have been moved to Media Center. So I've given you the link here to our IMS tools videos on Media Center. At the bottom is the link to IMS new functions as they embrace continuous delivery, and in the upper right is the link to the IMS tools new functions that I gave you earlier. And then finally, I want to remind you that every month, Rick Engel, who covers the Americas from an IBM IMS Tools technical sales perspective, is hosting WebExes on various IMS and IMS Tools topics. And so he always announces those WebExes on the IMS listserv, so I hope you're watching that listserv. If you have not seen any of those WebExes or received those notifications, or if you want to understand what we've already been presenting for the last year, we started this in April of last year, please reach out to me. I can put you in touch with Rick. He has all of the replays available. He saves them for you, so he has the recording along with the charts that he can send you. And even when you see the announcement, if the date or time is not convenient for you, it's still beneficial to sign up and register for the event, because then afterwards Rick will send you a link to the recording, and he will send you a PDF of the presentation. So even if you're not able to participate live, by registering you'll get those recordings. So I encourage you to do that. And as I said, our most recent one was Mike Gonzalez doing some pretty amazing things with Performance Analyzer and CSV files, and creating his own health checks. All right. That's what I have for you today. I'll say thank you and see if there's any questions. I haven't seen anything in the chat so far, but please type in the chat if you have any questions for me. Deepak, you're always so kind. Looks like we have a question coming in, so we'll just wait a moment for that. While we're waiting for the question, I will say that I hope I get to meet more of you when the world opens up again and we can have in-person meetings. I know some of you I've certainly met at other events, but I hope I get to CCDUG in the future to do that.
Yes, thanks for that, Tracy. We all hope that we get to see you as well. There's always this feeling of anticipation as you sit, because someone or other is typing a question.
Yes, and then you're worried that it's going to be a very complicated one, right? The longer it is.
Right. So I think that now finished. So if you want to take that,
yeah,
Tracy?
Sure. I'm going to probably have to defer and see if there's anybody else. Ron, I know, is on. He might be able to answer that question for me. I'm not sure if James is on today, but I can certainly get back to you on this. The question is, IMSPA cleans up sysdef definition. Is there any way to keep them in an ISPF profile? So I don't know the answer to that question specifically, but I can certainly take it and follow up unless someone else can type in fast enough to give an answer.
Okay. Well, hopefully you can get a detailed answer to the question.
Yes, yes, and I might even have it later today if you're still on. So
there we are. Then everyone is going to have to stay on till the end of today's session, at least, if not into the evening.
All right,
Okay,
thanks for your time.
Well, thank you very much, Tracy, and we look forward to hearing from you again later on this afternoon. So our next session, folks, will be starting in 10 minutes at 1:30 Eastern. And in the meantime, know that there won't be any light music. So if you just hum to yourselves, and we'll see you back in 10 minutes. Thanks.